Yeah, okay.
All right, let's give it to him.
Okay, so part two of diagnostics. So basically, the single most important diagnostic is an interesting one, which is a multivariate predictor of how many years of life you have left. Okay. Now, let me give you an example of how you might come up with that predictor. Let's say you take, and it'll sound a little morbid, but let's say you take thousands and thousands of photos of people who have died, okay, over the course of their life. So you actually have a training set where you can take, how many wrinkles are on their face, their obesity, all this stuff. You can pull that from machine learning roughly out of their facial features, and then you can see when they actually did die, and then you can compare that to your algorithm's prediction, right? Now, in real life, you'd want to buttress this with all kinds of other measurements there, blood glucose, bilirubin, all these other kinds of things, mRNA, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason this seemingly morbid indicator is the single most important diagnostic variable is that you can now measure every other intervention by the change in estimated life expectancy, right? So all the things that you could do to increase somebody's life, you can now measure them against each other and say, oh yeah, wow, this one really boosted them by like +1 year, +5 years, et cetera, right? Like when people say, oh my God, you look 5 years younger, perhaps it's actually measurable. That's something that we can actually do, right? So I think of that as like the universal ruler. And I think it's possible to get that. I mean, certainly when people look at somebody's face, they say, oh, that person looks old for their age, or that person, doesn't, and so on. I think we'll definitely find some signal for it, and I think there'll be some molecular signal, and I think that starts to have us moving towards the right metric. We start pushing all of our medical spending on trying to boost that metric, which is estimated life expectancy for people. And I think that's a very interesting concept.